Greetings, guys. Welcome to the first ever winGr Weekly. Um, this is a show where you learn how to be a better Counter-Strike global offensive player. Today we'll be covering the aspects of the most essentials in terms of team play, so that you can stop playing matchmaking, stop playing gathers, mixes, and whatnot, and actually find yourself a decent team to grow with and become a better player. And hopefully grow somewhat of a career. I'm looking over my screen here because I have my notes here. And first, a little something about myself, so that you know that I'm not full of crap. That you might actually not be wasting your time listening to me. First and foremost, I'm Norwegian Counter-Strike Global Offensive Cluster. So pardon my accent; it's not perfect, I know, but hopefully it will suffice to get the point across. Before that, I actually played for about 5 or 6 years as a caller in one of the most popular teams in Norway. Before I started my studies, I'm now studying game design, so hopefully I'll be making the next competitive game for the future. But first things first, let's dive into the bullet points of today's lessons. We'll be covering the art of giving precise and proper information to your teammates. We'll be covering what's in selflessness and what that implies. Also, we'll be touching the IQ point. It's not something that you actually can do something about, but you can sort of think about it and hopefully make some better decisions in game. We'll be covering something that I chose to call tactical rotations, where we'll get more into depth with it. And finally, something that is very, very, very underrated, but as a caller, I know what a menace it can be and how actually important it is for the team to move forwards, and that is giving information to the caller. That is the last little thing that I snuck in there. Okay, so let's dive in game where I've prepared something. So information, it's arguably the most important thing in Counter-Strike. For those of you, I'm gonna just assume that a lot of you don't know what I'm talking about. Some of you may know a lot about what I'm talking about, but you might still find some aspects of this useful nevertheless. Perhaps I'll bring up things that you have never considered. So basically, information, what it is. It's basically information. You want to tell your teammates what you are doing at all times. You want to tell them what kind of things you are seeing. Are you seeing 2, 3, 4 enemies? Are you seeing, just hearing something in, let's say you are holding catwalk. Catwalk is a brilliant place to use. Let's say you are standing here, just speaking a little ridge or a little something, and you hear someone at long. Let's say your teammate is at A spot covering long. You want to, of course, give him that information so that he's prepared to fire off that first op shot and then rotate back or whatever you have decided to do. So those things are very important, but that's like very basic stuff. So we're gonna expand somewhat on what I mean by precise and accurate information. And a very, very, very good good example of that is, let's say you met 2 guys here. They came rushing towards you and they shot you in the head, unfortunately for you. Okay, so basically for the average mid player, they would normally say 2 guys catwalk, which is, it's information, it's accurate enough. But what you could say, if you knew, for instance, you could say 2 guys catwalk, 1 catwalk to mid, this is this section right here, coming up on stairs, and 1 guy already at stairs. This gives your teammate, in particular this bloke you have on A side, information exactly where on catwalk they are, so that he can properly time the flashbangs and the nades. Because normally if you just said 2 catwalk and they were already here, the nade would already be too late and he would have died because he would have a nade in his hand. If they are here and you pushed aggressively, he didn't know, he would say 2 catwalk and the nade goes boom boom, they don't lose any health. He needs to know exactly when they are in order to time the nades and the flashes properly, because there's no reason to waste a flash or waste a nade or anything if you know that they aren't going to be any good. It's just this. I like to say that the good teams, they know the basics, and the best teams, they master them. So if you, for instance, get like Ninja Simples or Pajamas or whatever, and you listen to their Mumble or Skype or TeamSpeak or whatever they use, you will always hear constant chatter, what they are doing. They will always tell their teammates exactly what they're doing. In some teams, they've played together for so long that they don't really have to do that, but at least for the first few years as a team, you kind of want to do that, because it's the little things. If you throw a nade, you do 60 HP to 2 guys, you don't have to use your op anymore. You can just use your P2000, 2 shots to the body, and they are down. So that can be the make or break it for the guy holding A by himself. He can pick up 2 kills, don't have to worry about catwalk anymore, because the guy in mid hasn't spotted anyone else and he's got control. You can now focus entirely on long. Perhaps you just smoked it out, whatever. So it's kind of precise information. Can actually mean, do you lose a spot or do you maintain it, contain it? Another thing that's really underestimated is death cam. Say you got killed here and you just press the skip the death cam button, or I can't recall what it is. You have no information whatsoever as to what those guys are doing. They could be running towards catwalk and then turning and jumping into lower. You have no idea. But if you just sit here and like, okay, I'm gonna watch the death cam because that always looks at the guy who killed you. You can see more or less for 2 or 3 seconds. So that's 2 or 3 seconds of free information. I just turn over here on my mic. So that's 2 or 3 seconds of free information, so you know what they are doing. You can give the information to the other ones. If they, for some reason, have decided to fake catwalk, they run up here, throw a couple of flashes, and they jump into lower because they have smoked mid or whatever. You know that. You can tell your guys, say, hey, don't rotate to A. They're faking it. They're going B. And suddenly, your entire team is waiting at B, going, see what you did, but it didn't work. So that's basically how important the death cam is, and information in general is. So on to the next topic, which is selflessness. This is a team-based game. You can play all the deathmatch you want, you can have the best aim you want, but if you aren't contributing to the team, if you aren't helping your teammates, or if they aren't helping you, you're not going to win many matches, at least not on a high level, where your aim won't carry you anymore. So what you really need to do is ask yourself, how can I make this situation easier for my teammates? Meaning, let's say you are holding catwalk, because I used to hold catwalk in my days. I've held every places, all the places, but I like catwalk. It's a good place to show you the guys things. Let's say it's a 5-man rush on long, and your guy in the op is being hammered. They've gotten into pits. You can't hold this directly, because if you have an opper here, you can only really peek this angle without dying. So basically, what you want to do, because he can't really focus on what's in front of here, you need to think about, okay, how can I help him? First things first, you gotta know if your guy in mid has control over catwalk or not. If he doesn't have control over catwalk, you gotta take control over catwalk, so that he, and mid for that matter, you gotta go a bit aggressive actually to lock down catwalk and hear if they are rushing out mid, so you can give him the information, because then he can peek here. If he has control over mid, you might actually just want to keep this so that if they run across, you can give the information to the other guy, or you actually can kill them. I'm actually gonna head down to mid because it is not a great example of how we can help. Let's say you have one guy at B and you're holding mid, and you run a set of black. You have one guy just close here, just ready to rotate wherever. It's a setup I actually am quite fond of myself. I will touch on that in a later video. But let's say you're holding mid. The guy in B is smoked out in the entrance, and perhaps they have smoke, landed smoke here and here as well. And he's like, I'm smoked out, I'm locked in plateau or whatever. The only thing you actually have to do is let him know that you're heading to B to help him out. The guy over here can rotate, and you can just throw a flash in here, tell him flashing, and so that he can rotate into a better position. You throw one flash and you run back to site. He gets a better position. He's no longer locked in his dead zone, so to speak, and you helped maybe save the day, prevent them from getting a kill on B, just using that one flash. And if they were to rush out, you would have been there. So yeah, and while we're on the topic, I guess we can just skip right to it, because we just covered it slightly. Is tactical rotations. What is tactical rotation? Well, basically it's moving from your original position in order to help someone out. So that what I was trying to say is, if they are pushing B heavily and you only have one guy there, the guy from mid, he's obviously going to go and help his teammate on B. But you can't just like go and not tell anyone, so that they can run out here anytime they want. You need to actually cover this area even though you are running away. So what you do is you tell the guy at catwalk, or the guy who is in this errand boy position, so that they can cover the spot that you were covering. Because you don't want to leave your teammates high and dry, because any hole like this that the opponent's caller is aware of, they're gonna exploit. I exploit them. I expect my opponents to exploit them. So we do, as a defensive team, as the counter-terrorist, you do your best to actually cover up those holes as best as possible. It's not possible to cover them completely. You're always going to have a weak spot, but minimizing the risk is key. So that's the short version of tactical rotations. Also, IQ. Basically, I can't make people smarter. You're as smart as you are, but what you actually have to do in order to become a good player is you gotta process the information that you get from your team and your surroundings. That includes your headsets, your eyes, and also the radar. So you gotta interpret all that information, and in addition to the information you get from your teammates, to determine the proper action. For instance, if you hear 2B, that could be one guy with a what are they called? I don't even remember. Let's restart. Decoy. One guy with a decoy. It could be one guy with a decoy at B, and they have 4 people at long. Why would you rush to help a guy who's just put a decoy here and the rest of the team is outside just waiting for people to come rushing to the aid, and they have a clear path to A? So it's taking the information that you get and also using your experience as a player to determine the best action, which is never actually easy. And lastly, we have giving information to the caller. A lot of people don't realize that freeze time actually starts the moment you die. And the last thing you want to do, because believe me, the caller is the most stressed out person on your team, no matter what. You can be in a 1v5, the caller is more likely to be stressed out, because he has to determine what you do next round as well. figure out the enemy team, what are their weaknesses, etc. So you actually don't want to be talking to him on Vent or whatever program you use to talk to each other. You want to write it in the chat, in the team chat. If you have suggestions to what you might want to do, if you have like, hey, I noticed that their guy on Dong his aim is really terrible, his placement is terrible. Write it down. He will see it, and you won't clutter his mind with chatter, because he needs that freeze time to tell your team what to do. You can't be, okay, I'm gonna take those 5 of those 10 seconds or whatever the freeze time is to tell you this, because now you're gonna have a late start. What if he wanted to do a rush strategy? He can't execute it, and his entire game plan might get screwed up. So really use the freeze time for what it's worth. Write it down, and if you don't make it in freeze time, try to find some calm time in gameplay. Let's say you are trying to just get positions, you know, there you are fighting over mid or whatever. If you're just working your way slowly, just tell them, hey, A's really bad, we should try to exploit it. Don't be like, in the freeze time, it's the most hectic place ever for a caller. Don't camera focus, okay. Is the most hectic time ever for a caller. Don't try to like give him new information then, because he's going to try to tell you what to do. If he's asking for input, that's a whole other thing. That means he doesn't have a game plan, and he shouldn't be caller in the first place. We're going to touch a bit on calling later on, not in this video, but another one. As a final little thing. A lot of players, they tend to focus a lot on aiming, and in my next video I'm going to teach you guys how to get really good aim. But aim is something that is really easy to get. You can get as good aim as any pro player out there in 2 to 3 weeks. It's not a problem. It's not something you have to worry about at all. It's the easiest thing in the world to get good aim. What is difficult is taking the things that I talked about now and practice them and actually execute them properly. And those are the most difficult things in all Counter-Strike. So when I built my teams back in the days, I never chose my players because of their aim. I knew how easy it was to build good aim. Of course, muscle memory and all that isn't the same, but you can still get insane aim in 3 weeks. But the mental aspect is what really takes time to build. It takes years, not weeks. So by all means, take the information that I gave you, try to incorporate it into your gameplay. Let me know in the comments how you guys did, and till next week, this was winGr heading out.